So, you want to save the world with clean energy? Make money doing it? Confused about the economic and technical realities of residential and commercial solar, batteries, heat pumps, EVs? Want the real-world scoop on new energy technologies, not manufacturer hype? Then tune in to the Weekly Energy Show, hosted by Barry Cinnamon. Insights from Barry's 40-plus years in the solar and energy industry will help you understand the future ways we'll generate and consume energy. And now, here's Barry.
Welcome to this week's Energy Show. Now, the OBBB, or One Big Beautiful Bill, is now law in the United States. And that bill eliminates the 30% tax credit for residential solar, and it adds restrictions to the 30% tax credit for commercial solar, including residential leases, which are considered commercial installations. So effectively, the price for cash and loan purchases of solar, they're going to go up by 30% in 2026. Solar leasing and PPAs are a little bit more complicated, but effectively the prices are going to be a little bit higher just because of the complexity, and sources of funding is no longer going to be available because some of these special rules like domestic content, safe harbor considerations, and issues like that are going to really complicate product availability and pricing. So every solar contractor I know is working like crazy to get systems installed by the end of the year. So 2025 may be a record year for solar and battery installations. So smart companies are planning right now for 2026 and the years beyond that. It raises two questions. What should solar contractors do to succeed in 2026 and beyond? And what should solar and battery customers consider when evaluating products and installers? All right, this week's guest is Gary Lam. He's the CEO of Franklin Whole Home. Gary's a New Jersey boy like me, educated at Rutgers University, and he founded Franklin in 2019 with their headquarters here in San Jose. He's got 15 years of experience in the clean energy and electrification industry. He's an electrical guy, and he's a really good business guy. When I first came across Franklin, I was impressed with the design and specs of the system. So I tracked Gary down, and I asked him how and why he developed their product. The product was excellent. Their battery system became our bestseller very quickly, and their new releases over the past 4 years have kept them in the lead. If there's a saying, a company's success is based on its people. Gary and Franklin are a perfect example of that. So welcome to the show, Gary.
Thank you, Barry. It's an honor to join the show again. I think this is the second time I'm here, and I'm glad that you invite me again.
Well, you're here in our scenic Los Gatos studio, which is basically just a soundproof room in the middle of our big building. So we're pretty isolated. Oh, and it's good to have you again. And, actually, I'm proud that you guys are doing so well. But first, tell us a little bit about Franklin, about the philosophy and, how you're planning on continuing to succeed in this industry.
Yeah, Franklin was founded with a very clear mission, right? Is to empower every household with true energy freedom. What is true energy freedom means, right? Have you ever hesitated going to clean energy because you worry about how sustainable they are, right? Yes, it's a sustainable energy, but how sustainable means for your home's energy security, right? So what Franklin's do is we facilitate the transition between fossil fuel and clean energy. So people could go to clean energy without hesitations because they know they always have that fossil fuel backup when they need it. So that's about the missions of the company, right? But, the official introductions, right? Our headquarters is in San Jose, California, right? We have been growing our presence across U.S. I think very gladly said we have become, one of the top battery choice of U.S. within, 3 years of commercializing our product. We thank you everyone's support, including, of course, Barry being our big ambassador. So at the same time, we also invest heavily in the U.S. market, right? For people who don't know, we actually launched our U.S. manufacturing facility back in Q1 of this year, and that is located right here in Santa Clara, California.
What are you manufacturing there?
We are manufacturing, obviously, our award-winning battery system. So the Franklin A Power 2 are mainly manufactured in Santa Clara, California. The manufacturer not only meet domestic content requirement, but also support a lot of American jobs locally. And as we know, in Silicon Valley, we are supporting a high quality labor right here locally. And what makes Franklin different is our focus on the whole home solutions, right? We are not just a battery. We are not just taking the battery, storing it, and give out when you need it, right? We are integrations of battery, load management, and intelligent software, right? We don't just sell hardware. We deliver peace of mind by ensuring home can keep running even during outages, right? When helping families save on energy costs in long term.
Let me just give you a little bit of insight. When we're looking at battery systems, here are the three most important things to me as a CEO of a company that's selling and installing batteries. It's reliability, because we want our customers to be happy. We don't want them to call us if there's an issue. It's the performance. It's basically just specifications. And it's the total cost. And what's interesting about the total cost is it's just not the cost of the equipment. It's the cost of all the installation work that has to be done, and it's the downstream customer service work that most battery systems need. So we factor that into the cost originally. And I say, we've installed battery systems from a number of different manufacturers, some great, some okay. And when I talk to our installers and when I look at our customer service logs, the Franklin systems have been the most reliable in our fleet. The performance and features correlating to the cost have also been excellent. Yeah, you can get batteries that have more kilowatt hours, but when we kind of look at it on a whole, the Franklin's got a very good match there. And then the cost is very, very competitive. And since they're easy to install, and since we get almost no service calls, it has the lowest lifetime cost. And that's the thing that we're starting to look at. We've been putting in batteries for 7 or 8 years, and we're looking at those systems that deliver the best long-term performance for our customers. The battery system markets continues to be very competitive. And an example of that is the recent RE Plus show. So what kind of new products did you show at RE Plus?
Yes, I mean, this is a very, very important topic because to complete our energy peace of mind eco, we require a lot of things, right? As I said, we are not just selling battery, we're selling a true turnkey whole home solutions. And now our advantage not only limits to homeowners, but also for in benefit installers. And this is the most important things. How can we ensure a high quality product so installer don't get callback? Right? How we help each other to build each other's reputations. This is what I focus. It's because I have been in the installer shoes, right, for a couple of years. Right.
That's before Franklin.
That's before Franklin, correct. So what we have announced it at RE Plus, was a partnering meter collar solutions with our partners. Right. Currently, we support with different type of meter collar solutions, and that will allow users, installer particularly, to reduce dramatically the installation time, right? And also we have a brand new product, A Power S, which is a battery and solar inverter integrations. Right now, customer can get an all-in-one solutions from Franklin. And the best part, still the same high quality all-in-one solutions that ensure high quality product delivery straight from our factory. Also, a simplified load shedding feature we call in the past is called AP Box, but now we have updated that product with more robust and more feature. Now it's called A Hub. It is a intelligent load shedding device that allows users to connect anywhere from solar generator to additional sheddable load that you want, right? With no export capability. Yeah, and the best part, this great machine will also be U.S. manufacturing.
So there's some jargon in there. There's some terms that only installers may know about. And I'll kind of translate that into kind of real world installer issues and then customer issues. A meter collar is a way to connect the system to your utility meter without very, very complicated wiring. And that's something that you get help with from the utility. The reason why it's a good idea to integrate the inverter into the battery is it's just one less box to install. And from an installer standpoint, you can kind of look at the number of boxes that have to be installed. That correlates pretty closely with the amount of work that's involved. And every time you install a box, you got to mount it on the wall, you got to put a conduit, and you got lots of wiring. So that really helps. And then the load shedding, finally, it was very farsighted for you to call Franklin Whole Home, because load shedding gives you the ability to turn off those big loads in your house, like your HVAC or like your EV charger, if there's a blackout. So that means it's much easier. It's much more practical to back up the whole home without the battery getting drained in an instant with a 7 kilowatt HVAC system or EV charger. So very, very cool. One or two other companies have done some of these, but Franklin's the only one that's put it all together, and I'm continuing to be really impressed. All right. So just kind of talking about this OBBB. What do you think the overall impact of the OBBB will have on the rooftop solar industry and the battery industry?
Right. I think the biggest impact, as everyone will be aware, is 25D, where individual homeowner now no longer eligible for the ITC rebate. That means, homeowner installations will go, or installations cost will go up by 30% next year. Let's talk about the good thing. I believe a lot of us will see a hike, a rush in install by the end of this year. So we will have a good year of 25. But then, later on, 26 is what we will worry, and we will want to think about how do we combat.
From a customer standpoint and from an installer standpoint, what are the characteristics of your products that are going to really help long-term success after 2025?
Correct. So after eliminating the 30% incentive, what users going to see is immediately a 30% jump on their initial cost of install. So I think for us to benefit, or not benefit, but for us to combat it, right, we need to provide more value to justify that cost increase. It's not a fault of us, not the manufacturer, nor the installer adding costs, but however, they simply lose that 30%, right? So what we need to think is, how do we add value to product? And this is what Franklin has been doing, right? We have add 5 extra years of warranty, right? So if we are looking at longevity of the system, how long a user can depend on, right? We are comparing 15 years to 10 years. It's 50% increase on value on that. And also, the increased capacity. But most importantly, think about the whole ecosystem that we offer, right? Offering load shedding capability, additional tie-in, a seamless generator, and eventually a reverse charging for EV. All this value, I think, will outstand, the added cost for consumer. When we're comparing our system in the market, all these feature almost add at no cost to our customer.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, my perspective on things is things will be slow in 2026. Everybody's getting their feet underneath of them. There's going to be some parts of the country that'll do okay. Some will suffer. Some will really thrive. There'll be some new financing out there.
Yep.
But the good news, which is kind of the bad news, but the good news is electricity prices are only going one direction, up, up, up.
Exactly.
And as those prices keep going up, the industry is going to come back, I think, roaring in 27 and 28.
One thing about, a added cost system is people will start focus more on its reliability, which also translate into value, right? I mean, it's glad that we have proved our quality throughout the last couple of years. I think most customers are happy with our system with very minimum of service call, right? That kind of reduce the OPEX from installer aspect. But for homeowner, it is a true peace of mind, right? You don't want to buy a system and have to change it in 10 years or less and keep servicing them. It's a headache. Remember your old generator experience? I think most people have that experience, like, oh, every time I need to use the generator, it's not working, right? I think that peace of mind will definitely bring more value when customer considering their battery system. And I think higher value or higher quality product will stand out in this high price environment.
Yeah, it's higher quality and it's the features that you need without paying a lot of extra money for it. And certainly the viability, the long-term viability of the product.
Correct.
There's a lot of companies out there that have hardware and the batteries are good, the control systems are good, things like that. But in our experience, the software and the firmware has been really even more important than the hardware. Because if the software isn't working right, if the app on the phone isn't working right, the hardware doesn't really do anything. So, Gary, what are some of the things you're doing in software or firmware that enable features that customers are going to want?
Yes, and this is what good about Franklin, a all-in-one ecosystem that we are able to control a lot of features within it. First of all, let me walk you through step by step of what we have done. Right. First is absolutely, as you said, apps. We think a user will interact our system mainly through the apps. We have eliminated like the screens and everything on the battery. So you will not be hanging around the battery and look at its status. Although it have a very nice, cool looking LEDs outside, right? But for only easy indications of levels and status. But everything is focused on the apps. This is what homeowner and installer will interact with it every day. So we try to pack as much feature as possible into the apps, including you could track your daily performance in the apps, your other than the current status, obviously you're able to see everything that you connect to the Franklin system that under one apps, right? For example, solar, generator, right? House load, your load shedding feature, your whole house consumptions, how many power you're pulling in from grid. Every one of them are so standard.
And it's important to make that intuitive, because if these features aren't easily understood by customers when they get the system, they're going to call you or they're going to call the installer, and kind of making it intuitive, nice graphical interfaces is really, really great. And the other thing I want to add is, and it's subtle, and it took me a few years to figure this out, but I saw lots of battery companies come out with a battery from one company, a control system from another company wrote their software, another company did the enclosures and the cables. And it's hard to integrate all that. And then I saw a few companies, and, I'll mention names, but Tesla did a really good job of this. Enphase did a really good job of this. And Franklin's doing a terrific job with this, is everything's made and designed by your own team.
Correct.
So as you're developing that hardware and the way it talks to all the different components, the software also can get developed.
Yes.
And when there's issues, this is where the rubber hits the road. When there's an issue with something, you can take care of everything under one roof, as a few of those other companies can.
Yes.
But if you're kind of aggregating different parts from different companies, if the inverter doesn't work with the battery control system, you got two different companies to deal with. It's very hard for them to get on the same page with the software.
That's correct. So we spend a lot of time on integrating it. This is why I said the benefit of it is a closed ecosystem that Franklin developed, right? Now, through that system, we are not only able to monitor everything we make, but we help homeowner and installer to monitor third-party components like your PV, like your generator, right? And see, if they are working properly. At noon, middays, sunny, and your solar is not putting out, you could just use the Franklin apps to identify that. So you don't have to be digging into different apps.
Yeah, and this is a subtle thing that we also found, is that some inverter systems allow you to monitor each individual panel, which is kind of cute. It's nice. But if it's installed properly and if it's all on one or two roof sections, it doesn't really matter. But what happens from an installer standpoint is you get customers calling up and say, this panel is putting out 3 kilowatts, 3 watts less than the one next to it. And you go crazy. But it's all integrated in Franklin. And candidly, Tesla does the same thing. Your battery system with the inverter monitors the whole system. And as long as you see that output kind of continuous and what its requirements are from a seasonal basis, everything's working properly. So it kind of takes the headache away from installers to worry about individual panel variations, which are almost never due to the panel or the wiring.
Right.
Let's talk about some of these new things that are on the horizon, or they're actually coming here. Virtual power plants, vehicle to home, vehicle to load. It sounds like that's mostly a software issue as long as you've got the hardware in place. So how is Franklin participating in those markets?
I will correct a little bit of that. It's not just the software issues, right? When we are planning for that feature, the hardware need to be ready, especially, for example, like the V2H or V2L features. We have to design it from a hardware stage. I think what we are good at, why people think our software is good, is not because our software is good. It's because we have a good hardware to also support all the feature.
Once again, that ties the two together as they're being designed.
Correct. So this is why we insist on every hardware and every software are designed in-house, right? But yes, we will be launching, soon. It's a V2H feature, right? Probably through any installers like, Cinnamon. Homeowner will have access to a quick and low cost, EV tied-in solutions. You could immediately turn your EV into an energy source for your home through the Franklin system. Turning a car into an energy source is easy, but turning a car into a reliable energy source has to through Franklin.
And actually, there's one more hurdle that you have, is turning the car into an energy source without freaking out your utility and creating all kinds of aggravation.
Exactly.
So there's very, very strict rules about how a battery in a car can interact with the home and with the grid.
Correct. So we have taken a lot of effort into studying the law, and we're currently, our solutions are guarantee compatible with all the lawmaking, and most importantly, your warranty of your EV. We are extracting power from a designated power output port from your car. So, shouldn't have any issues with the EV manufacturer on about their power warranty.
Not like hackers that I knew 10 years ago that were taking apart their Tesla or their homemade EV and say, hey, I see some voltage here. I can kind of convert that into what I need in my home. What about expanding systems in California where we have to put in what are called non-export systems? How does that work with Franklin?
Oh, in Franklin, we have a non-export mode. Work with all the sensors as pre-built into the system. We are able to control power flow through different source and channel. So through that, no matter how much you expand your system, we could guarantee the system is still comply with your service entry rating. I think the highest system we have installed in California is a 16 8 power system.
Wow. We only did 8.
Yeah.
So somebody's ahead of us. That's amazing. So obviously not for your average residential house, but I would say 80% or the sales, 80% of the market are people who just need one 15 kilowatt hour battery and one system with an inverter. And that just kind of works. That's the majority of the market.
Yeah. I think that should be plenty enough. We don't encourage any excessive behavior on putting battery, obviously, because there's a lot of challenge on structure. These batteries are heavy, right? So structure and things, we need to be cautious. But also because of our load shedding capability and generator support, as most importantly, a seamless generator support, that is the key of reducing your battery need. For example, a lot of us have to oversize a battery a little bit just to overcome that 1 or 2 day extra that come every couple of years, right? From an extreme weather or any other occasions. But now installer can design a perfectly fit system for the average consumption need for the house. It will guarantee them about 99% availability for the power. But on that 1%, we could turn on the generator, we could shed the load, or we could jump in an EV.
Plug in the truck, plug in the car. That's my vision. Sometimes there may be a blackout for a week, a bad storm. It's cloudy. You're not getting enough sun. That generator's fine, but it's so easy to plug in a vehicle that has that vehicle to home capability. And now you're driving that 100 kilowatt hour battery around. And if that truck battery or the car battery drains down, just drive it to a local high-speed charger and charge it up. That is definitely the future, integrating all these things together. And you need that box and that software that does it all.
Yep.
Well, you've been in the solar industry for a while. You're starting to see what the solar coaster is like. What's your view on the good news looking forward?
Oh man, I have been in this industry for 15 years, and I'm glad to say that I graduated from nearly a solar degree and straight into the solar industry. Back 15 years ago, I think we were one of the first pioneer in researching home battery, and I have seen a lot. At the beginning, what we are selling was a $8 watt system, equipment only, with panel and inverter and mounting system for $8 a watt. And what we are getting today, $3 a watt installed it.
Yeah, it's completely changed.
Price changes are one of the things. And then we see all these policy and law changes, right? With NEC 13, 17, 21, and moving forward. But we are prepared. I mean, I love changes. Changes means opportunity. Whenever there's changes, there's more opportunity for all of us. We continue to improve the electrifications for America. And there's a lot of opportunity in it. I think the biggest changes lately, back to the OBBB topic, is taking away that 30% incentive, right? Yes and no. I mean, we all love free money. But I think taking away this 30% now has rectified the industry into a more healthy path of proving the technology, right? And proving the industry is real. Like solar is a real renewable, real sustainable industry that could sustain on its own.
Yeah. There's one thing I'm going to have to disagree with you on. It's sometimes you say that losing the tax credit is going to make us better. I'm not exactly sure that Nietzsche applies to that, or if it doesn't kill us, it makes us stronger. It would be much better to have that tax credit, just flat out. But you're in the battery business, and you look at how rapidly the costs of solar panels have come down over the past 50 years. We're on the same trajectory for mass produced batteries. And so whatever the battery cost is now, in 5 years, it could be half that price.
Not to mention 5 years, in 2 years, we already drop half of the price. batteries.
Well, so what happens is, and the same thing happened with solar panels, as the batteries get cheaper and cheaper, the integrated system and the ease of installation, those are some of the costs that you've got to get out. It's a lot of work building a company, building a team. I know you're selling all over the world. What do you do for fun? How do you let off steam?
In the past, I do enjoy hiking, right? And a cigar and whiskey here and there. I think since running your own business, kind of take all of this away from you. You kind of need to be always in the sharpest mind to overcome any of the issues. Since the company founding, we have found so many challenges. In 2019, when we first found the company, next month, national shutdown because of COVID. Right. And 22, when we are like, yeah, we have the product, we overcome the COVID, we come in the market, commercialize, Ukraine war come. Right. And then a year after, tariff come in. And then a couple months later, OBBB kick in.
It's the solar coaster. So the people that are in this business are inherently optimistic. We will prevail. We'll figure a way through.
Yeah. So now in my free times, I have fun and like just imagining what could come next as a black swan. We don't know. And this is kind of the fun part. It reminds me when I was reading like science fiction's novel when I was young, I imagined what will happen out of the blue. Now I have to be a little bit more realistic and imagine what will come out next out of the blue.
Boy, there's been a bunch of things that have come to us out of the blue over the last 5 years. It's been the most dynamic times, the challenging dynamic, the two words that kind of encapsulate that, but the most dynamic times. And that's what the solar coaster is all about. How can people get in touch with Franklin?
Yes, I mean, we have all the channels to let people get in touch. Obviously, the best way is visiting our website. We have a brand new, beautifully designed website, that have a contact us button on every single page. But other than that, always feel free to look at us via the social media like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We constantly post our latest update and our latest feature product on it. And always feel free to reach out on our service hotline. One great thing is, the average wait time for our service hotline is still under 5 minutes, not 1 hour, for both homeowner and installers.
That's fantastic. I wish we could have our hotline going that fast. All right. That's all the time we have on this week's Energy Show. Thanks, Gary, for joining me. And thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in. If you missed any of today's show, you can always go to our website at energyshow.biz and listen to the podcasts.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's Energy Show.